Whether you were born in the 1980s or the 1990s, or maybe even earlier or later than those decades, there is no doubt that Cowboy Bebop is not only one of the greatest anime series of all time, but also an anime series that seems to unite both casual and loyal anime fans as well as hardcore anime fans and non anime fans, let alone people who love animation as a whole. And they would probably go out of their way and state that Cowboy Bebop is the greatest anime series of all time. And Jack Sky Blue, if you're watching this video, I dedicate this vlog style tribute, let alone adulation of Cowboy Bebop to you, the most iconic anime series of all time, which I'm sure you caught in your younger years, as well as learned to appreciate it as you got older. And don't worry, I have also been on that journey too when it came to really admiring Cowboy Bebop when I was younger, but really growing to appreciate it a lot more as time went on. Whenever you think of an anime series that has aged like the finest of wine, a lot of people, including me, would consult Cowboy Bebop. There is no doubt that this is an anime series that combines a lot of different genres, from the usual space opera without being too space operatic to sci-fi to a bit of comedy, which isn't all laugh out loud funny, but done in a sort of Shakespearean manner in terms of using subtlety as well as using a lot of clever jokes and homages in the mix. And let's also not forget about its greatest aspect of the story, which is the human drama involving our four main bounty hunters: Jet Black, Spike Spiegel, Faye Valentine, and Edward, or even known shortly as Ed, and even a lot of the characters that we meet in Cowboy Bebop. And of course, whether you watched Cowboy Bebop or have learned to start appreciating it, there is no doubt that you will find yourself rooting for certain characters as well as understanding some characters, loathing some characters with a passion, but also finding yourself thoroughly entranced with everything they're defined by. It's no wonder why Cowboy Bebop ended up crowning my list of 15 favorite anime series 11 years ago, as it was number one. And it's no doubt that a lot of people consider Cowboy Bebop to be the greatest anime series of all time. And it's also because of its superb English dub that has also blown the Japanese dub out of the water. I basically started to love Cowboy Bebop when I was a 13-year-old boy about to approach the seventh grade back in 2005. I caught it on Animax and I started to really, really love the series so much. I also wanted to diversify my taste in anime, considering that 12 years old back in 2004 was the peak era when I started to really love anime and kind of called myself a self proclaimed otaku. And Cowboy Bebop was that anime series that really took me seriously as a viewer and as someone who has found myself really loving the medium of anime. And I managed to hear a lot about it when I was in my way younger years. And then when I was in my tweens, I kind of found it a little bit elusive to me. I might have heard a few things about it in passing, but didn't start appreciating Cowboy Bebop's overall value until I was 13 years old when I was starting the seventh grade. And during the time I was in the seventh grade, I even caught it on Adult Swim a couple of times when I was in Hawaii with my parents, and I believe I caught it a couple of times during my Christmas break in California back also in 2005, alongside my parents and my siblings. So there was just a lot of amazing aspects about Cowboy Bebop that I found myself loving and appreciating to this very day, and a lot of amazingly gold standard assets that made Cowboy Bebop shine in my very eyes. Yes, I'm sure you all know the story of Cowboy Bebop. We got bounty hunters in the forms of Jet Black, the veteran who is known for his marksmanship and his handling of artillery, as well as being known as a rough and tumble type of guy, but with a lot of worldly wisdom for someone who is in his late 30s. Then you got Spike Spiegel, who is the Bruce Lee XP, known for his quick moves, varying degrees of attacks, and for his smooth talking, but is also known for his rather tragic past, especially when it comes to his former girlfriend Julia and his former buddy Vicious, considering all the tensions and the interpersonal tragedies occurring between Spike, Julia, and Vicious. Faye Valentine, who may be a young woman of 23, but is actually someone who was stuck in a cryogenic sleep, thus making her maintain her very youthful physique and her overall youthful countenance, and considering that she still remembers various things that have happened to her before she woke up from her long cryogenic sleep, and Ed, or Edward in full, who is actually a girl and is the hyperactive, bubbly, and pretty street smart genius who knows how to hack computers and therefore infiltrate certain systems to track down perpetrators, and the corgi, Ein, who serves not only as the group's pet, but is also clever in his own way, considering that he also has a special computer chip embedded into him. Along the way, Jet Black, Spike Spiegel, Faye Valentine, Edward, and even Ein find themselves entangled with not only their targets, but also their pasts, as well as what they have to acknowledge and the measures that they might take to move on in stride and strength even when the chips are down. So Cowboy Bebop definitely has a lot to offer. If you're looking for kick butt action, it's got it in spades. If you're looking for human drama without being too overwrought, it has it too, all thanks to its superb writing. If you're looking for creepy villains, especially where Pierrot Le Fou is concerned, it's got it too. If you're looking for a lot of fun moments You can't go wrong with the Punch and Judy segments. It's got everything, and it's all thanks to its superb writing. I know that there are certain people who feel that Cowboy Bebop is more renowned for its style and not too much on its story, but I'm willing to defend Cowboy Bebop until my dying day because Cowboy Bebop's excellent aesthetics, wonderful animation, and totally gorgeous use of world building certainly complements its stellar writing, wonderful character studies, and masterful use of subtlety. And when it comes to whether you want to listen to it in Japanese or in English, yes, it's recommendable to listen to it in Japanese, considering the talents of Koichi Yamadera and Megumi Hayashibara, or excuse me, Megumi Hayashibara leading the helm, considering that Yamadara Sensei and Hayashibara Sensei are two prolific and absolutely amazing voice actors. And we dare not forget about other guest voice actors like Kape Yamaguchi, Nobuyuki Yama, Yumi Toma, and even Gara Takashima, but ultimately it feels like it's Koichi Yamadera and Megumi Hashibara giving stellar performances, but you've really got to give it to the English dub in terms of having Stephen J. Bloom, Melissa Fawn, Wendy Lee, can't forget about Wendy Lee, and Bo Billingsley giving excellent performances as our four main heroes, especially if you've got Stephen J. Bloom as Spike Spiegel, Wendy Lee as Faye Valentine, Bo Billingsley as Jet Black, and Melissa Fawn as Edward. Everybody just did excellently all the way through. And what's really fascinating about Cowboy Bebop is just how much it still resonates to this very day. It's an anime series that just gets better and better with repeated viewings and has proven itself to age like the finest of wine. And there are also related anime series that are just as great as Cowboy Bebop and therefore kind of follow in that footstep, let alone Cowboy Bebop's legendary footsteps. I mean, you got the likes of Outlaw Star, Trigun, Black Lagoon, and even Samurai Champloo, which is kind of its spiritual successor, and of course, Space Dandy, which I made a vlog of my first impressions of that anime 12 years ago. And there you have it. Cowboy Bebop truly was an exceptional trailblazer in the late 1990s in terms of its style and in terms of its substance. An excellent mixture of the two. I already mentioned that the characters like Jet Black and Spike Spiegel, Faye Valentine, and Edward have their own stories and their own odysseys that they're dealing with. But we also dare not forget about some of the antagonists, most notably Vicious, who also serves a purpose in the story, not only as a sort of main antagonist, but also a mirror of Spike's past, as well as Julia, who you might think is just the old flame, but there's a lot more to Julia than meets the eye, especially considering that her story is one that is so deep in tragedy and mystery. And all the other characters, whether they be minor characters or cameo characters, or even main characters, supporting characters at that, they all have something to contribute, and they're all just as nuanced and therefore just as stunning to witness, whether you understand them, fear them, empathize with them, or feel like you don't want to be too near them. There's no doubt that Cowboy Bebop boasts an extremely amazing cast of characters that you can't help but understand where they're all coming from and see why they are the way they are. And they all serve an amazing purpose, whether it's to survive or to accept the past, run away from the past, or even just try to get as much money as possible, or, well, even the nefarious deeds like throw their lives away. You can't help but understand where all these characters are coming from. You really want to get yourself invested in them, but sometimes getting yourself too invested with these characters might prove itself a bit too risky for the sake of feeling like you've seen all sides of them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's how masterful Cowboy Bebop really is when it comes to its character development, as well as its usage of characters that garner viewers' understanding without unnecessary manipulation or without tawdry melodrama. It's done with style, respect, and a whole lot of precision, which has always made Cowboy Bebop a timeless classic in its own right. And no timeless classic would be existent, not only without characters, but in terms of having wonderful voice actors. I already mentioned that the likes of Koichi Yamadera and Megumi Hayashibara gave extremely outstanding performances as Spike Spiegel and Faye Valentine. But I dare not forget about Unsho Ishizuka as Jet Black, who combines that gruffness and that fatherly warmth rolled up into one excellent package. And Aoi Tada, who managed to provide a rather fun rendition of Edward and her bubbly nature. But when it comes to Koichi Yamadera, it's no surprise that that baritone silkiness and that suaveness serves to make Spike Spiegel a formidable yet charming hero. Even though I kind of use that term a little bit loosely with him, but he's a charming gentleman in his own special way, and he makes him all the more winsome and relatable. And Megumi Hayashibara, she's pretty much a goddess when it comes to voicing various characters and therefore providing each and every one of them life, distinctiveness, and uniqueness. And she also brings in that subtle tragedy that makes Faye Valentine the way she is and all the trials that she's had to go through personally. So, this mixture of excellent characters, well written characters at that, with wonderful voice actors, especially on the Japanese side, cannot be questioned. And speaking of the Japanese dub, it's kind of relatively overshadowed by the English dub because even when people don't care for English dubs, or even when people have a love hate relationship with anime being dubbed into English, there's no doubt that a lot of people would listen to the English dub of Cowboy Bebop because it's got some of the greatest performers on board. Stephen J. Blum really brings out that suaveness, devil may care attitude, and that absolutely dashing virility that make Spike Spiegel excellent and therefore praiseworthy as a male anime character and probably one of the finest heroes on screen. Wendy Lee brings in a lot of nuance, charm, and mysteriousness and beauty to Faye Valentine to the point where you really feel for her longing, some of her deep pains, but also that sass that she's not afraid to let out with the passion of a burning sun's. Bo Billingsley and that fatherly warmth and that virile gruffness that made him distinct as Jet Black, Melissa Fawn, and her wonderfully bouncy and charmingly charismatic charm as Edward, and a host of amazing voice actors and voice actresses who've really made Cowboy Bebop absolutely excellent, such as Kirk Thornton, Barbara Goodson, Mona Marshall, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, Darren Norris. The list can go on and on and on because they were all amazing. And in terms of the Japanese side, you also can't go wrong with Norio Wakamoto as Vicious, and he does know how to play villains well. But when it comes to the English dub, let's just say that all the voice actors and voice actresses on the English dub of Cowboy Bebop definitely made it legendary in their own special ways. And it also matches with the excellent and pristine quality that makes Cowboy Bebop not only the number one anime series of all time, but in my opinion, my number one most favorite anime series ever. And in terms of the music, you have to give it to Yoko Kanno. I love Tank with a passion. It's gotten me so pumped up every time I wanted to tune into Cowboy Bebop and be so immersed in the world that it had to offer. And the Real Folk Blues is quite a classic. True story. I even sang a line from the Real Folk Blues during one of my film shoots during the time when I was in my film school, IAFT. Shout out to the International Academy of Film and Television, Cebu. And I played a rookie terrorist in one of my old friend's thesis film. And I used that particular line in terms of the chorus to sing that, which I definitely enjoyed. And it's all thanks to my admiration for Cowboy Bebop. So, Cowboy Bebop definitely needs no introduction as one of the greatest anime series of all time. Maybe to a lot of people, including me, and maybe to anybody who loves great visual media. If you haven't seen Cowboy Bebop yet, I order you to really, really appreciate the majesty and beauty and sheer awesomeness that Cowboy Bebop has to offer. It's 26 episodes long, but those 26 episodes are worth your time. In fact, I would go out my way and say that for 26 episodes, Cowboy Bebop knows how to tell its story with intent, purpose, distinction, and excellence. There has been no anime series like this, and it is therefore recommended viewing to those who really want a masterful character study, excellent use of style and world building, and beautiful animation, crisp animation at that, rolled up into one amazing package. And for those of you who experienced the absolute majesty of Cowboy Bebop when you were young, or when you really started to get into more mature anime, what'd you think of it? Was Cowboy Bebop the anime series that made you affirm that anime can be taken seriously? Did you have a favorite character that you cherished so darn much, whether it was Jet Black or Spike Spiegel or Faye Valentine or Edward? Was there a character that made you feel kind of creeped out in the best way possible, whether it was Vicious or Pierre Fou? Was there a character you felt really sad for, like Julia? Or did you feel like Cowboy Bebop does get a little bit too much praise? Please let me know in the comments below, and I would love to hear your opinions and experiences of Cowboy Bebop because it definitely deserved all the love that it could acquire. And this is without a doubt Shinichiro Watanabe's magnum opus, and a timeless magnum opus at that. See you later, space cowboys and cowgirls.